Good morning and welcome to our regular meeting of council. It's February the 14th, 2023. Happy Valentine's Day. It is 9 a.m. and I will call this meeting to order. Before we carry on with much of the agenda, I have a few remarks. Today, we remember past Elgin County Warden Ken Monteith, who passed away on Friday, February the 3rd, 2023. Mr. Monteith served as councillor, deputy reeve, and reeve of the township of Southwold from 1974 to 1981, and was elected Elgin County Warden in 1981. Mr. Monteith was a Conservative MP from 1988 to 1993. He was a longtime ambassador for farming in the St. Thomas Southwold area for decades, and was active in several county and international plowing matches. He also played an active role in fundraising and supporting St. Thomas Elgin General Hospital, Elgin St. Thomas United Way, and the Queso Station in St. Thomas, Family and Children's Services of St. Thomas, Elgin, and Elgin County Hospice. On behalf of Elgin County Council, I express my sincere condolences to Ken's family and to the Township of Southwold. His service to our community will not be forgotten. And now, if you will join me, we'll observe a moment of silence in memory of Ken. First order of business is adoption of the minutes.
Be it resolved that the minutes of the meeting held on January 25th, 2023 be adopted.
Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Hens will move. Councillor Cookett will second. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. I would remind members of council any disclosures of pecuniary interest and the general nature thereof. Would see none noted. Section 4, presenting petitions, presentations, and delegations. 4.1, St. Thomas Elgin Social Services, the 2022 review. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning, Warden, Ketchba, and members of council. We are pleased to be here this morning to share with you some information and update on what happened during the 2022 year within Elgin County regarding social services. I thought it might be, I'm Heather Sheridan, by the way, I'm the Director of Social Services, and I thought it might be helpful to share some historical context around why we deliver both St. Thomas and Elgin County social services. In 1998, the province downloaded the delivery of services through social services to the municipality, and they created 47 consolidated service managers. So we are one of the 47 consolidated managers, and we deliver services to both St. Thomas and Elgin. And it would be similar with London. They do London and Middlesex. Chatham would have Chatham and Kent. Windsor is Windsor and Essex. So across the province, there's 47 consolidated service managers. And within St. Thomas Elgin, we deliver children's services, housing and homelessness, and Ontario Works. And today I brought with me the managers from all three of those programs to share a high-level overview. They're happy to answer any questions that you have. And at the end of the presentation, you'll see my contact information. I'm happy to chat with anybody anytime. I thought it might be interesting for you to know that 3 out of 4 of us live in Elgin County. So we definitely have a vested interest here. So I'm going to ask Joanne to start us off with Ontario Works.
Good morning. So my name is Joanne Weber and I'm the Ontario Works Program Manager, and I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to provide you with an Ontario Works update. In 2022, the average monthly caseload was just over 1,300 cases. This represents approximately 2,200 people each month who relied on St. Thomas Elgin Ontario Works for financial assistance. In 2022, 43% of cases were open for less than 1 year. So it's important to note that employed individuals, while they may no longer be eligible for financial assistance, may continue to receive health benefits for up to 6 months. Others who typically stay in Ontario Works longer include single income earners with dependent children or those with preschool age children. For those with health issues, Ontario Works acts as a bridge to other financial programs such as Canada Pension Plan Disability and the Ontario Disability Support Program. The number below each municipality or township represents a number of cases. So 26% of cases were residents of Elgin County. This slide provides a snapshot of the people we served from Elgin County during the month of December 2022. 53% of the head of households have high school education or post-secondary. Unattached singles comprise the majority of social assistance cases at 67%, while single parents were the second largest percentage of cases at 27%. 61% of the head of households were between the ages of 25 and 44, and there were a relatively small number of youth in receipt of social assistance. In 2022, 34% of cases in St. Thomas and Elgin County were closed due to employment. This is 11% over the provincial average. Cases with employment earnings were 2% higher than the provincial average, and earnings per case were slightly lower than the provincial average. In 2021, the government announced its vision for the future of social assistance to create an effective, efficient, and streamlined social services system that focuses on people providing with a range of services and supports to respond to their unique needs and address barriers to success so they can move towards employment and independence. Where it makes sense, the province will oversee the financial side of social assistance and back office administrative functions. By reducing routine administrative tasks, OW staff will have more time to spend with people. We know people are most likely to achieve economic and employment success when their lives are stable. Having a safe place to live, physical and health needs met, and feeling connected and supported within their community are critical to supporting people become employment ready and move towards independence. Financial assistance is just one component of support. When people arrive at our door, they're most often feeling very discouraged. Yesterday, I heard from a former client, despite a very difficult start, they've now graduated from post-secondary, are employed, and see a bright future ahead. By arming people with knowledge and the right supports, great things can happen. Being available in the community is also very important. Along with our office in St. Thomas, we maintain 2 satellite sites. At the Elmer Community Services, we're there 5 days a week. And at the West Elgin Community Center, we're currently there 2 days a week, and we're evaluating that whether to increase it. There are really many other aspects of Ontario Works I could touch on, including more emergency services such as the evacuation center at Port Bruce that we had a while ago, and the provision of emergency supplies during the holiday season this year. But I really want to be respectful of your time today. So I thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today. If you have any questions, please let me know, or in the future, please reach out. Thank you.
Does anyone have any questions for Joanne Ray at this moment? Yes, Councillor Cookett.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. Just one comment and one question. If I made one comment, I'm looking at the people who access Ontario Works, and those who have less than a grade 8 education are about the same as those who have a post-secondary education. So I guess Ontario Works is not, help isn't related to the amount of education you have, which is interesting point.
It is.
Secondly, if I may through you, Mr. Warden, the map of Elgin that you showed, I think on the 5th slide, it indicated 152 underneath both Malahide and Elmer. Is there a separation of the two? Those are the 152 are both municipalities.
I didn't separate that out for the presentation today, but I could do that in the future, but I didn't.
Do you have any idea what the number for Elmer and Malahide is? That's okay, thank you.
I'm sorry, I could hazard a guess. I'm thinking probably just over 100 are probably in Elmer, right in Elmer, and the remainder are outside in the county, or in the municipality.
Okay, thank you.
Anything further from anyone? Okay, thank you, Joanne.
Thank you again.
Good morning, Warden Ketchiba and Council. Thank you for the opportunity to be with you this morning to provide you with a housing and homelessness update from 2022. It's my first time in person with Council, and it's a pleasure to be with you. My name is Danielle Nielsen. I'm the Manager of Social Housing and Homelessness Prevention with St. Thomas Elgin Social Services. Next slide, please. So in St. Thomas and throughout Elgin County, there are just over 1,100 total units of social housing, which includes subsidized rents. Within that total number, there are just over 330 within Elgin County. Social housing units include buildings and units that are owned and operated by the municipality, as well as nonprofit housing providers through service agreements. Next slide, please. In addition to our social housing stock, we also maintain a social housing wait list. So this slide provides you with some context related to that social housing wait list. By the end of 2022, there were a total number of 1,100 households that were waiting for social housing. Within that total number, 445 were waiting for social housing specifically within Elgin County. Wait times for social housing are based on unit selection and retention within the building. In the county, the wait times are approximately 1 to 4 years to access social housing. Throughout the entire municipality, the wait can be as long as 9 years. In addition to our social housing units, we also provide portable housing benefits as well as rent supplements to assist households in maintaining their existing housing and making it affordable for them to retain that housing. Next slide, please. So this slide provides you with some information related to our homelessness prevention program, which is a provincially funded program and has been since 2013. Formerly, it was known as the CHIPPY program. This program aims to prevent, address, and reduce homelessness, including chronic homelessness, through the following objectives: prevent homelessness. People experiencing homelessness remain housed and have connections to supports and services. Address homelessness. People who are homeless or chronically homeless obtain and retain housing with support services, and reduce chronic homelessness. Our 2022 and 2023 HPP investment plan includes financial assistance in our rural areas in both East and West Elgin, which I will speak to in more detail in just a couple of slides. The total amount of HPP funding for our municipality is $1,791,600. It's allocated to 7 service providers through service agreements in order to meet community need, including service providers, again, both in West and East Elgin. As a caveat, I will share with you that it is nowhere near enough to actually meet the needs within our community. And on that, I'll share that there is much advocacy from our office to the provincial government for an increase. This funding includes funding to operate the St. Thomas Elgin Social Services Housing Stability Financial Assistance Program, which provides rent and utility relief to prevent or end an occurrence of homelessness. This program can be accessed by qualified households by contacting our St. Thomas Elgin Social Services office. Next slide, please. This slide provides you with an overview of our by name list. So in order for us to ensure that we are kept up to date on the state of homelessness within our municipality, we operate what's a best practice tool, which is called the by name list. The by name list is an active way to know who in our community is experiencing homelessness at any given time and by name. Multiple service providers refer people and provide updates to this list regularly, including daily. This tool was implemented in July of 2020. Since that time, a total of 460 unique individuals have been identified. Of those 460, 278 have been housed, 55 moved to inactive, and remaining 127 remain active. The 228 households that were housed represents over 60% of the total number of people identified, which is remarkable when it's compared to provincial data as well as other municipalities. Of the 127 people who remain actively homeless today, 13 are located in the county, which represents approximately 10% of the total list. Inactivity is defined as someone who has left the community or has not touched the system through multiple different system touch points in over 3 months. Next slide, please. So in addition to the by name list, another best practice that we use here locally is called the Coordinated Access System. So the Coordinated Access System is a community-wide system that streamlines the process for people experiencing homelessness to access housing and supports, and it is an essential step to smarter, faster, and more coordinated housing options. There is a link on this slide if you're interested in learning more about what this best practice is. And locally for us, our service providers meet every 2 weeks to review our by name list and match people to housing resources as appropriate and as they become available. Next slide, please. So this slide provides a bit more detail related more specifically to rural homelessness. And for context for council, throughout 2022, approximately 40 plus households experiencing housing instability in rural areas of our county received system navigation support to end their occurrence of housing instability or homelessness. Rural homelessness does have unique characteristics. Some of those include that people often fly under the radar. There's an increased fear of stigma and a reduction of privacy. There's reduced access to supports and services, including transportation, and fewer housing options. Next slide, please. So to address some of these challenges, about supports and services, there are 2 programs in particular that receive HPP funding from St. Thomas Elgin Social Services. So that includes Family Central, who receives funding to operate supportive housing, a day program that addresses food security, as well as resources to operate a winter emergency shelter. In West Elgin, HPP funding is provided to employ a full-time rural homelessness system navigator who supports the entire county, as well as resources to operate an emergency winter shelter as well. Additionally, the West Elgin Community Housing Access Center also is the lead for an affordable housing alliance that has convened and includes invested community members, service providers, and members of council. The group meets monthly to continue its solution-focused work and advocacy to increase affordable housing in the county and to engage stakeholders in understanding and endorsing the need to become a part of the solution. I asked our county service providers if they could provide me with a good news story to share with council today, and I'm happy to share the following story with you. A young mom of 3 children was living in a rural area within Elgin County and was referred to our rural homelessness system navigator, Tanya Dale. As the reason for her referral is that she was at risk of experiencing housing instability and homelessness due to domestic violence within her home. She was going through a divorce, needing to separate from her partner, and the family home was to be sold as part of the court order regarding their separation. Access to regular funding streams was complicated as she was technically a property owner, but had no income and no access to the equity of her home. As a soon-to-be single mother of 3 children, one with severe autism requiring full-time care, she needed to find housing within a small radius of her rural community so that her son with special needs could continue his school program and remain in proximity to the father, which was also part of the court order. The situation was further complicated as she required a single dwelling home due to the symptoms of her son's autism, which included intense noise sensitivity. And at times, some of his symptoms included making significant noise, resulting in noise complaints. Due to the imminent risk of homelessness for this single mother, an intake was completed, which included connecting the family to our coordinated access system. This mother started meeting weekly with our rural homelessness system navigator to address her goals, and eventually she was successful in finding a home within her community that met the needs of her family. With no income, the family required and received financial support through West Elgin Community Health Center, the YWCA, and St. Thomas Elgin Social Services to help with moving costs, first and last month's rent, and her startup costs. As a result, the family is happily settled into their home. The children are adjusting well, and it's the result of this incredible collaborative work throughout our community and our service providers. This young mom and her children were prevented from ever having to experience an occurrence of homelessness. Next slide, please. So this slide provides you with an overview of some of our work with Built for Zero. In May of 2021, St. Thomas Elgin became a Built for Zero Canada community. Built for Zero is a national movement of over 30 communities that are working to end chronic and veterans homelessness. It is structured and data-driven and built on national and international best practices. Built for Zero is designed to help communities drive homelessness down to reach functional zero. Functional zero means fewer people are experiencing homelessness than are routinely housed on a monthly basis, or less than 3. Next slide, please. And then just lastly, more information is available on the stthomas.ca website. And these are some examples of some of the reports that you would find there related to our work to address housing and homelessness. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Daniel. Does anyone have more, Daniel? Good job.
Thank you.
Good morning, Warden Catchabon, members of council. My name is Teresa Slowski and I'm the Supervisor of Children's Services. And I am pleased to provide you an overview of what happened in 22 around childcare. This is just a general overview of how many spaces that we currently have in St. Thomas Elgin. This does not include our new spaces at Alderborough, and I'll address that in a future slide. But you can get an idea of what the structure is around how many spaces we have in our community. Next slide, please. We, as part of Children's Services, we provide subsidies for families who cannot afford childcare. And this is an overview of the number of families and the expenditures that we have placed in 2022. The numbers are a little bit strange to understand because COVID is still really impacting our childcare centers in a variety of ways. We continue to struggle with lack of staff. So we have some centers that are not running at full capacity because we do not have enough qualified staff. So we're not able to provide as much subsidies we would want to because we don't have the staff, and we have a current waiting list. And we still have families that are struggling with getting back into the workforce or have changed their model of care. And so they're working from home. So that impacts subsidy as well. So that's what's impacting these numbers. Next slide. This is our current childcare waiting list. And every single community in Ontario is experiencing a wait list. We do not have enough childcare, but the provincial and federal governments are working to help that. And I'll talk a little bit more about the Canada-wide Early Learning Childcare Program in a future slide. But our wait lists are still in place, and I have been able to show you exactly specific to Elgin what the numbers are. But we do have a plan moving forward, and I'll talk a little bit about that in a future slide. Licensed home childcare. Licensed home childcare is a really wonderful aspect of childcare because it is a home that is located either in a city or in a community in a rural area to accommodate between 5 and 6 children in their home. And so we know how much it costs to build a large childcare, millions of dollars, whereas licensed home childcare is something that we're focusing on because the expenditure is quite low. We help support to outfit that person who's running the program, and childcare is offered in the home. We are currently, we have an 8-week, just look at my note here. So we have an 8-week campaign right now on MyFM to recruit new home care providers because we know that this is something that we can do immediately, that we can try to get things rolling quickly, because building a new childcare or finding new childcare spaces in existing areas is really, really difficult. So home childcare is something we're prioritizing right now. You can see that in 2019, pre-COVID, we had 30 home childcare providers, and with COVID, that dropped significantly. A lot of families are not comfortable offering care. With COVID, the numbers have gone up, and we've actually, I think we're Sorry, we're at 22 right now. We are actually having a lot of people interested from this campaign, calling our home childcare providers, showing interest and wanting to learn more. So we are really excited. And hopefully next year when I come to present, that number will be significantly higher. Next slide, please. Early on Child and Family Centers is an initiative that we've had for many years, and through supporting families in the community. And you can see here, these are just some overviews about how many families are accessing our early on programs. That little green slide, or that little chunk of the pie there, is our virtual programming. That is something that we did not have in place prior to COVID, but we are offering virtual programs for families so they can be at home and engaging in program, connecting with the centers and learning more about things to support their families. And we are really excited that that is still continuing in our community, because we know that at times it's hard to get into the physical spaces of the programs. You can also see that if this had been 2 years ago, there wouldn't have been any indoor programming due to COVID, but we're back into the swing of offering indoor programming at all our locations. Slide, please. Okay, so here's a little bit of an overview of what's happening in childcare. So the new center is under construction in the city of St. Thomas and St. Catherine Street Childcare, and that we hope to have that open by the end of the summer this year, and that will be 88 spaces that'll be coming to the area. Alderborough Public School, that center right now is almost ready to open, 49 spaces and also 50 nursery school spaces. I just toured that just before about a couple weeks ago, and it's a beautiful location, and I think families are going to be super excited to be able to come and enjoy the programs that are being offered there. There will also be an early on space in that location as well, so families will have the opportunity, even if they're not attending the childcare or the school, to access programming through there. Assumption Childcare there's a redesign going on with the Ministry of Education, and we're just waiting to hear about that. That's potentially 49 spaces in Elmer at Assumption Catholic School. St. Mary's Catholic School in West Lauren, again, it's been approved by the ministry. We're still waiting to hear when the construction will be able to go ahead with that. One new early on space that we added was at Monsignor Morrison in the city of St. Thomas. That was part of the redesign with Assumption. So we moved that space into St. Thomas, and that space is up and running, and it's a dedicated space, and it's beautiful, it's wonderful, and there have been lots of families from Elgin County accessing that program. Next slide. And this is my final slide just to provide some highlights. So as you know, the Canada-wide early learning childcare system, which I call CWALC, was announced back in March of this year, of 2022. And we are so excited that 100% of our childcare providers in St. Thomas Elgin have signed on to CWALC. So every single family who is accessing licensed childcare will benefit from the $10 a day childcare program when that's fully unveiled. Many families received the fee rebate. So anybody who fell within the 5 and under age range was able to get a fee rebate from April 1st to the end of the year. And we gave out $1.25 million in rebates to families. Effective December 31st of this year, all childcare fees went down to 50% of the fees that they were charging in 2022. So we're very excited about that. Very, very recently, the ministry asked us to create a plan as to what type of childcare we're going to be offering. They provided us with their targets for us. And the province would like to see St. Thomas Elgin increase childcare spaces by 702 spaces, which is a daunting number. But we in Children's Services are actively working to meet that number. We do have a 5-year plan, and I want to let you know that conversations have already happened, but we truly are targeting the East because we know that there is a childcare desert there. There's not a lot of childcare, and that's our focus. So we're looking at getting larger spaces. We're looking at home childcare actively across the entire county, and that is our priority. A little bit of information about workforce development. Some funding that we received last year was to support recruitment, retention, professional development of early childhood educators. So we hosted a large professional development day. This one was online on May 9th, and we had our first in-person day on October 24th. And our next day is planned for May 19th, where we bring all the childcare providers from St. Thomas Elgin together to work together and focus on a variety of topics. I believe our next focus will be around mental health for both people that are working, families, and children. So that'll be our highlight. Again, we are doing a very large social media campaign to recruit early childhood educators, and we're working actively with all the CMSMs across the province to help figure out how we can get more early childhood educators to work in these programs. We are going to be having all these new spaces opening, and we are very concerned about the number of educators that will be able to work there. It's not going to be fun to open a new center and have it stand empty because no one can work there. So that is a priority for us. So that was a very quick information session. Do you have any questions for me?
Thank you, Teresa, for that presentation. And I am encouraged by your comments. Obviously, yes, we do have a need in the east end of the county, and I'm encouraged that you're looking to focus on that in the near future. I think you've got some pretty good coverage throughout the county, so thank you for that. Does anyone have any questions for Teresa? Councillor Jiguer.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. Just a quick question. So those numbers and targets, you would be able to provide that per area in terms of like which municipalities, because it's a really big county. So
It
I can't
is.
assume somebody would drive from one end to the other to drop off their child. So if we needed a little bit more detailed information, that would be possible.
It would be possible in the future. Right now, I have just submitted that report to the ministry, and we're waiting for feedback because the ministry obviously is going to give us some indication as to whether our plan is achievable and attainable and what funding we will receive. What I can say is that we truly have looked at all aspects of a community, like focusing a lot on the east, but also looking at the west and continuing to support families in St. Thomas. So once I get an approval, I would be happy to share that information. Thank you for your question.
Any other questions for Teresa?
Thank you so much for your time.
Okay. Teresa, could I get you just to shut the mic down? We're getting tremendous feedback. Okay, does anyone have any questions for either or any of our presenters this morning? If not, I would like to thank Heather and Joanne and Danielle and Teresa for attending today and giving us this update. Thank you very much.
Be it resolved that the presentation from St. Thomas Elgin Social Services be received and filed.
Do we have a mover and seconder, please? Councillor Widner and Councillor Sloan will second. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Do we have a presenter for the Wildscape Project Sink House?
Yeah, I'm here.
Morning, John. Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay. Now, moving on with the next presentation, we're joined with John Lurchner, the Chief Executive Officer of Wildscape Company, dealing with Project Sink House. John, if you'd please, floor is yours.
Okay. Sorry, am I sharing my screen here or are we presenting on your side?
We have it here. Thank you.
Okay. There's a couple slides that I've added, but that's fine. So yeah, thank you for taking the time to hear me. I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about what we're doing with sustainable building and affordable housing and recent projects that we've been working on with Lanark County. So just a very quick background on myself. I run both Cabinscape and Wildscape. Cabinscape, we've been operating for over 5 years now. We build tiny cabins that we put in sort of cottage country type areas and rent out as short-term accommodations. But in the process of building and designing these units, our factory we've CSA certified our factory, and we found that there's a lot of potential in the CSA building. So we've kind of spun off Wildscape, which is focusing on building of CSA certified dwellings. And in order to kind of do our first R&D and design, we've actually been working with Lanark County and just recently won a Green Municipal Fund grant through the FCM to do our first builds. So we're going to be building 2 units. You can go to the next slide. We're going to be building 2 units in Perth, Ontario. And the funding is basically going towards sort of the research and development to create what we're hoping to be a carbon negative manufactured home. So the 2 units that go into Perth will become part of the Lanark County Housing Corporation's affordable housing portfolio. You can go to the next slide. So there's sort of three pillars of sustainable building, as we're calling it. So the first one is one that you're probably fairly familiar with, or you've heard about in one way or another. It's fairly established in the code, the idea of operational carbon. So this is really just what's the carbon that's produced in the operation of a home or unit. So that might be, you know, heating or cooking, or usually heating hot water, cooling, that sort of thing. And a lot of the items around this are about efficiencies. So the efficiency of, you know, how much insulation is in the wall, how efficient a furnace or a cooktop is. So this is something that's again pretty well codified, and there's a lot of programs that they're supporting it as far as, you know, replacing old windows, just increasing those efficiencies. So the thing that we're really working on that's a little bit different is next slide. Is embodied carbon. So this is starting to become more and more common in the conversation around design and build, but we haven't really seen it. It's kind of just starting to trickle up or bubble up in the general world. But embodied carbon is the idea of what is the carbon that is produced in the manufacturing or building of a home, and all of the materials and items that go into it. So, you know, stuff like steel, plastics, glass often have a very high sort of carbon footprint. So what we're doing with this project is looking at all of the materials in the entire building process, as well as the lifespan of the unit, and what is the actual carbon that's produced. So you'll see materials like a very, very common material right now is spray foam, which is great for its insulation properties. But the reality is you're basically shipping chemicals across from China to spray them in the wall. And then ultimately you pretty much preclude any sort of recycling potential for the unit, simply because it's basically like a glue that just sticks everything together. So you can't really take it apart or break it down or reuse any of the parts. So while it has some great insulation properties, the overall embodied carbon is a serious negative on the product like that. Next slide. So the third sort of pillar of sustainable building that we look at is durability and quality. So a basic example that I use is like a steel roof versus a shingle roof. Steel, as I mentioned, is not necessarily the best material as far as embodied carbon. However, if you look at the overall lifespan of it and the small amount that's used on a roof, it can still be a pretty good choice as compared to shingles, which also have a high embodied carbon, but they might only have a lifespan of 20 or so years, whereas a steel roof will have 50 plus years. So you might see shingles having to be replaced 2 or 3 or possibly more times in the lifespan of a steel roof. So the overall embodied carbon of a shingle roof versus a steel roof is significantly higher. So just we're kind of doing those calculations to figure out, you know, as far as partially by cost. So you might have a slightly higher cost in a steel roof than you would in a shingled roof, but your overall long-term cost is lower and your overall embodied carbon is considerably lower. So we're looking at that with all of our materials. So like exterior wood siding versus vinyl siding. Interior, we're using a lot of wood cladding. For insulation, we're using like cellulose or wood fiber materials. So it's low in embodied carbon, but it's also something that's going to last a long time. So you can be sure that you're keeping your carbon to a minimum simply because you're not replacing the unit in a short period. Next slide. So looking at applications for these. So we, again, we're a CSA certified factory. We don't call them tiny homes. There's no CSA certification for tiny homes. These are small homes. It is mentioned in the building code. So it's one of those things where it's just kind of the words that you're choosing, but there's now more opportunity, or there's been growing opportunity for these types of units to be used in backyard, granny suite, or secondary units, as we call them, with Bill 23. Obviously now we can put up to 3 units on a service lot. There's also good opportunities from an affordable housing perspective. If you have an existing property that isn't being fully optimized, that may have an existing building on it, you can add additional units to it. So this is in the case of our Atlantic County partnership. Both of those units are being built on a service lot. Next slide, please. But one thing that is a little bit different is we are also the only factory that's off-grid certified. So we do have the opportunity to build in urban and rural areas. We're looking at shared services. So your sort of small home community where you might have a shared well or a shared septic, or even a shared off-grid solar system. Another thing that we've been looking at, this is kind of, again, transferring from cabinscape over to wildscape as opportunities for temporary or transitional housing. So these are sort of these small bunkie units. I've recently been reading about a community in Fredericton where they've seen a lot of success around this, where basically the units themselves are an absolute minimum sort of build. So this would not be a CSA certified unit because it doesn't necessarily have a full kitchen or a full bathroom in it. But it's a minimum housing option solution that gives people a warm place to stay, gives them a roof over their head, and gives them the opportunity to start focusing on transitioning into employment or transitioning out of their current scenario. And they're seeing great success with this and just being able to alleviate some of those really basic concerns, and minimizing the cost on the units that you're building. So these would typically have some sort of shared resources. So like shower space, kitchen space would be shared, but they still have their own individual units. And the nice thing about these as well is they can be used as temporary structures, so they can be transported. They could be used as worker housing. They could be used as warming units in the winter. Next slide. So again, there's rural community and shared services opportunities. So this is where you might have multiple units on a rural lot that doesn't have service, and using shared services, you're able to have more units at lower cost. Next slide. So there's one slide that's missing here actually that I haven't added yet, but it's just recently come up that we're looking at a CMHC program. So CMHC is running what they're calling the Housing Supply Challenge right now. And we're looking for a land partner for this essentially. So in the same way that we've worked with Lanark County to, we do their R&D and the builds of the units, they've supplied the property, and then ultimately the units go into their affordable housing portfolio. CMHC is basically offering a setup right now where the first application, or the first stage of the application in April, is just a basic written application. Anybody who's shortlisted for that will have the opportunity to use $150,000 of grant funding to do the design work in the second half of 2023. So we're looking at basically taking our learnings from the Sink House project with Lanark County, these standalone units, and actually creating row housing with them. So that creates some opportunities and cost savings as far as there's less exterior cladding and materials. And then you also have higher operational efficiency. So you're paying less in heating and cooling, but your overall cost can be reduced in offering this row housing solution. So we would, if we're shortlisted, we would have this 6 months in the second half of the year, 2023, to do the design work. And then they have a very quick sort of turnaround, because part of what they're looking for is quick solutions to the housing supply crisis. The build would actually then happen between March 2024 and March 2025. So they have a $37 million pool that will be broken up between those shortlisted applicants in order to execute the builds. So in the same way as what we've done with the Green Municipal Fund grant and doing the build and having the land partner, the granting body, in this case CMHC, would basically pay for the build, and then it goes into the portfolio of the land partner. You can go to the next slide. So just to give you a bit of an idea of sort of what these designs look like, this is the Sink House project design. It's a 1-bedroom unit. Again, we manufacture it in our factory, and then we bring it in on a trailer and hook it up to the services. Next slide. So the idea with the CMHC program would be to take these different sort of designs that we have and basically pre-engineer and pre-design them so that they can be kind of jigsawed or Tetris together in a certain way, depending on the site. So once we have completed that sort of engineering and design work, the intent is that we can very affordably create a multi-unit structure without having to, start from the beginning with the design and engineering work. So the next slide. So this is just a slightly smaller unit. This is sort of a studio apartment. Next slide, you can see the floor plan. So again, this is based off of some of our cabinscape designs, but would be more focused on a long-term or permanent dwelling or transitional dwelling. The next slide. This is just an interior shot of that sort of bunkie design. So it can have a kitchenette or a toilet room, or it could just be an individual sleeping space, depending on what kind of servicing is available. In the next slide. And that's again just an example of a simple bunkie. So you could have this with a bed on the top as well. Next slide. So that's the basic presentation. I'm open to take any questions, of course, whether it's just around the sustainable building practices, or if there's any interest in discussing the possibility for land partnership with the CMHC program.
Well, thank you, John, for the presentation. Does anyone from council have any questions? Yes.
Through
Councillor
you,
Noble.
Warden, a quick question. Thank you very much for your presentation. If you talk about sourcing materials, like how far back on the carbon with respect to the supply chain do you go? Like if you're looking at steel, is it sourced in North America? And you talk about steel, like it's recyclable, right? If you look at an asphalt roofing product that's got asbestos in it in 25 years, they go to a landfill. The steel gets recycled. So I'm just curious about how you decide what materials to use and where they're sourced. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, that's all being taken into consideration, right? So there are steel roofing products which don't have that recycled content. So we're again trying to source. In the case of the steel roof, we're looking for the solutions that have the highly recycled content. And then with something like interior wood cladding, like pine board, like behind me here, we look for locally sourced pine board. So we're taking into consideration the recycled content in products where recycled content is an option. And then yes, like sourcing locally where we're able to source locally. So that's all being calculated and taken into consideration with the Sink House project. So we can basically find the optimal materials for our build.
Anything further from council? Okay, thank you, John, for your presentation this morning. Very informative, and best of luck in the future, of course.
Yes, thank you.
Be it resolved that the presentation from John Lochner, Chief Executive Officer of Wildscape Co. be received and filed.
Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Jones will move. Councillor will second. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Section 5, Committee of the Whole.
Be it resolved that we do now move into Committee of the Whole.
Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Hens will move. Councillor Noble will second. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Section 6, reports to council, outside boards and staff. 6.1 is the warden's report for December 2022 and January 2023. The report is before you. Is there any questions that anyone wishes to ask? Admittedly, it started off a little slow, but I'm sure the pace will pick up. Seeing no questions,
Be it resolved that the report titled Warden's Activity Report, December 2022 and January 2023, dated January 31st, 2023, from Warden Ketchabah be received and filed.
mover and seconder, please. Councillor Noble and Councillor Sloan will second. All in favor? That's carried. 6.2, from the Director of Homes and Senior Services, Homes, request for temporary part-time clerical support. Good morning, Michelle.
Good morning, Mr. Warden, through you to members of council. Before you is the report on the Homes request for temporary part-time clerical support. As part of the Human Capital Management project, home staff will implement updated scheduling software and a robocall system. This implementation process will require additional administrative staff support while training, setup, and implementation is conducted. The home staff anticipate additional support would be required until such time as the project is fully implemented, and we are targeting June 30th of 2023. It's anticipated this request will cost a total of just over $47,000 across 3 homes. This request has been brought forward to council as part of budget deliberations. However, the 2023 budget has not yet been approved. It's anticipated this request can be supported through the provincial Safe Restart funding, and provided that the scheduling software and robocall project work begins in March of 2023, staff anticipate the request for the temporary part-time administrative staff will support the success of the homes portion of the human capital management project work. As such, there's 2 recommendations before council. The first, that the report be received and filed, and second, that council provide staff direction related to the request for temporary part-time clerical support at the cost of $47,234 to support implementation of the software for both scheduling and robocall. And I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Michelle. Does anyone have any questions for Michelle? Okay, part of the recommendation is looking for council direction. Any thoughts? Council, Deputy Mayor or Deputy Warden McPhail.
Thank you, Mr. Warden, through you, to council. Certainly, I think that's a very, very reasonable request. You can't do the job if you can't get people to work. And if you don't have a mechanism to allow you to be able to do that, I think we would let the residents of our homes down. So certainly, I think this is a valid proposal, and I would be prepared to move the recommendation.
Thank you, Deputy Warden. Any further comments? Okay, I happen to agree with the Deputy Warden on this. The intention of the human capital software was to reduce administrative burdens and to automate these things moving down or moving forward. But first, we have to get it up and going. So, Julie, have you got something crafted to fulfill the direction?
Certainly. Be it resolved that the report titled Homes, Request for Temporary Part-Time Clerical Support from the Director of Homes and Senior Services dated January 31st, 2023 be received and filed. And that council provide staff direction related to the request for temporary part-time clerical support. I'm sorry. For the second piece, that council direct that or council approve the request for temporary part-time clerical support at a cost of $47,234 to support implementation of software, including scheduling and robocall. Sorry.
Mover and seconder, please. And I believe Deputy Warden McPhail had moved that. Councillor Jones will second that. So all in favor? That's carried. Thank you. I think we can carry one more report and then we're going to take a break. So section 6.3, Manager of Economic Development, Tourism, Strategic Initiatives, Tourism Cruiser. Good morning, Carolyn.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Warden. Through you to council. In 2013, Elgin County Tourism implemented a cruiser program to attend and support local community events. And each summer, we have summer students that attend about 10 to 15 events in the community. And staff also use the tourism cruiser to attend events in the off season, like the St. Thomas Elgin Home Show and the Rodney Night Market that happened this winter. So the cruiser is also used to deliver brochures and other promotional material to tourism locations across the county. Next slide, please. So our current tourism cruiser is a 2013 Chevy Express. It was a repurposed library van. And when we received it in 2019, it already had 198,000 kilometers on it, and it required an engine replacement. Since that time, we have spent just over $8,000 on maintenance and repairs on the vehicle, and it still remains unreliable. In 2022, we replaced the battery several times as well as the starter, but it failed to start at several events, leaving staff and students stranded. So in spite of all of this work, it still doesn't always cooperate with us. And the van is also not user-friendly for young drivers. Drivers can't see out the rear view mirror and there's no backup camera. Next slide, please. So in 2022, council approved the purchase of a new tourism van for $40,000. A request for quotation was issued on May 13th, and there was one response from CoTrack Ford. On June 3rd, we ordered the Ford Transit Connect. As of January 4th, we still don't have a build date for that vehicle. And this is due to ongoing supply issues for cargo vans of that size. And next slide, please. So in order to go ahead with the tourism cruiser program this summer, we need a new vehicle. The current vehicle isn't reliable, it's not safe, and we can't ask staff or students to drive it. So the requirements that we're looking for a new vehicle include reliability, storage, fuel efficiency, safety, something that's easy to maneuver, and availability. The event student begins on May 18th. And you'll also see a photograph here of the items that are stored and transported in the tourism cruiser. This should give you an idea of the storage capacity that we need for our vehicle. Next slide, please. So we reached out to a number of different dealers to put together a list of other options. And this is a list of the options that best fit our list of requirements. And they include a Ford Escape, a Ford Bronco Sport Big Bend, a Honda CR-V, and the Hyundai Tucson. Next slide, please. And here you'll just see the different options and how they compare to each other. So we can go through these. And reviewing all of the options, the vehicle that best meets all of those requirements is the Honda CR-V LX. It fits our budget, has the largest storage capacity, and has a lead time of 1 to 2 months. So this is something that we could get before the summer student begins in May. And the next slide. The recommendation is before you, and I would be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Carolyn, for that report. Any questions from council members? Councilor.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. It's unfortunate you can't get the preferred vehicle because it's definitely a much better option than what we're looking at here as far as durability and function goes. I'm a little concerned about, well, any of them actually, but as far as durability and life expectancy compared to what the recommendation was previously. Just the concern I have, obviously we need something and we can't make the van work for another season. Just my opinion.
Well, thank you for your thoughts on that. Yeah. Councilor Widner.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Warden. Just looking over the report, I do have a few flags. So this is what I used to do for a living. We've had this other van fixed several times and it's always the same thing over and over and over again. I would suggest we get another service provider. That's unacceptable. As far as it for being not user friendly, is there 2 people in it most of the time?
Through you, Mr. Warden, to Councillor Widner, there would be usually 1 student driving the vehicle.
So backup cameras are cheap. They're about $300. If that would get you over a hump. I would still like to see us wait for this little vehicle from Ford. It looks to me like the best alternative and it's, relatively cheap. If that isn't a possibility, the vehicles that were picked out, I'm just not sure they're the right fit. I would suggest a minivan or something like that, something with some more room in the back where you can fold everything down, at least make it more user friendly. But I don't know if it'd be worthwhile to try to reach out to as a CoTrack, see if we can get an approximate time. I know there's a lot of people waiting for vehicles. They do eventually come, but it's a long time. So if this thing could last through the summer and wait for the new one, that would be a good choice in my mind. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Widner. Through you, Mr. Warden. So we did reach out to Dodge as well. They also have a smaller cargo van. They are having the same supply issues and they can't get anything at the time either. And Ford Kotrak. So we reached out to them in January. They don't have any build time and they don't know when that build time will be available. So just no information on that. And we would love to be able to continue the current vehicle. That's just not possible. I've driven it myself and it is not safe for a student to drive. We have used our own vehicle, so I will load up my own vehicle for events, as will our tourism officer, although students don't always have the correct size vehicle to do that.
Okay. Yes, Councillor Sloan.
Thank you very much. I just wondered to Councillor Witter, if there's, have ever been considered a rental vehicle for the summer or a lease type arrangement? Obviously, if we need to wait for a particular vehicle that's the most sought after one, is that a consideration? Thank you, Warden.
Thank you. Any consideration for that, Carolyn?
We could certainly explore that option.
Councillor Whitner.
Yes, thank you, Warden Ketchabah. Just a question. We're single sourcing this, it appears. Is that right? We're not even tendering it. We're just going to buy one. Am I wrong on that?
Turning the question over to Brian Lima.
Thank you, Mr. Warren, through you to Councillor Whitner. So originally a request for quotation had been sought by various dealers locally for a similar product. What I can speak to further to Carolyn's comments is staff have remained diligent in following up with Kotrak almost on a monthly basis. And as you heard today, no build date has been provided. They've gone so far as to suggest that many of the automotive manufacturers are transitioning from gasoline powered vehicles over to the battery solutions. The vehicle that has been spec'd comes from Turkey. And as noted, material supply chain issues still continues to be a challenge for the production of those vehicles. And in fact, we aren't the only customer waiting for this option. It just, quite frankly, they've told us it isn't readily available and they don't even have a guesstimate as to when it could come in or if it will come in.
Supplementary, Councillor
Thank you,
Whitner.
Mr. Warden, just when I was talking about the vans, I didn't mean like a cargo, I guess like a minivan, a caravan or whatever. There's all the companies are still making them. If you could fold your seats all down, you have a big wide, and that should be readily available. They are on the lots. I did go so far to look and see if there's any used transits out there. There's some locally, but the prices are almost comparable to the new ones, so that's not a good option. But I would suggest a caravan or something like that. It'd be a lot more user friendly with the big doors, and you can move you've got a lot of stuff you're going to be storing in that. I can't see how you're going to do that with a sport utility. But thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. Councillor Noble.
It's for you, Mr. Warden. Just wondering how many times a week do we need the vehicle? Like if we only needed it a few times a week, could we just rent it for those days that we need it until the transit comes in? That's the preferred vehicle for this use.
Yes, Brian, please.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Warden. Certainly in the short term, we could definitely explore renting. In terms of a long-term solution that isn't financially sustainable, it is far cheaper to purchase new. Ultimately, we could certainly and will explore a van option, and I can come back to council with a future report in that regard. Just one final comment in response to Councillor Whitner's suggestion that we rely upon another mechanic service provider. We've dealt with, I think, at least 4, including the Chrysler dealership in St. Thomas, and this van has been a challenge. I think we're on motor number 2, transmission number 3, and as you well know, sometimes changing out motors can be a challenge, and wiring is now becoming an issue. The wiring harness on the vehicle, as Carolyn has noted, staff have been stranded at events, and it has presented a challenge. So the suggestion to explore a rental option is a good one while we explore other options as well.
Okay, Brian, one question from me. Given the fact that you're looking at putting a particular vehicle into service along about May, bringing back another report just puts it down 2 weeks. Does that still provide enough time? Should the availability of something alternatively show up?
Yeah, it certainly does. We'll table a report at the next council meeting.
All right, thank you for that. Deputy Warden McPhail, you had a question?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Warden. I don't know, you drive by the Chrysler lot, there's all kinds of vehicles sitting on the Chrysler lot. You would think that there'd be a minivan sitting there somewhere that we could put our name on. As far as renting, I think that we're Elgin County Economic Development is in this for the long game. I don't think this is just a short-term solution that we're going to need for a couple of months and then, oh, we're all done. And the other component about it, if I had this vehicle and I was driving back and forth to St. Thomas to these meetings, it had been gone a long time ago. Because that's just a lot of repairs on one vehicle. So I would like the idea of checking to see, because I've had minivans in the past. They're very durable, reliable vehicles. That so if maybe we can have a quick look at that. You'd probably be in a position to come back within a couple of weeks for our next meeting with the report. I think I'd be satisfied with just giving it that extra look, because I think they're a great little vehicle, and we got to get on with this.
Thank you, Deputy Warden. Anything further? I think council is kind of into a consensus here of where we want to go. Julie?
Be it resolved that staff be directed to provide a follow-up report regarding the tourism cruiser at the February 28th, 2023 meeting of County Council.
Okay, do we have a mover and seconder? Councillor Jones will move. Councillor Widner will second. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. So at this point, I'm going to call a comfort break, 10 minutes.
Thank you.
Okay, welcome back. We now pick up at section 6.4, General Manager of Engineering, Planning and Enterprise, Deputy CEO. Draft plan approval, plan of subdivision, Municipality of Bayham, file number 34T-BY 2020, 2201. Such a serial number.
Thank you, Mr. Warden, through to council. Before you is a staff report recommending approval of a 33 lot subdivision in the hamlet of Eden. A comprehensive application was submitted in June. Endorsement from the local municipality, in this case BAM, was received last month. The submission was deemed complete and is acceptable, meeting the applicable criteria. It's important to note that at minimum, one member of the community has expressed concern with respect to the proposed use and reliance on individual private wells in support of this development. That prompted discussion with a member of the public along with local and county staff. It was recommended and advanced by the local municipality that a technical peer review of a geotechnical or hydrogeological assessment be undertaken. The findings of that peer review identified that the original submission met the intent of ministry's requirements, and so county are satisfied with this development moving forward in that regard. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for that report. Does anyone have any questions? Thought it would be getting away with that fairly easy.
Just one question, Mr. Warden. How far is the closest municipal water service away?
16 kilometers. Now, if West Elgin would like to pony up $30 million for us, we would be happy to extend it.
Yeah, well, we're still using garden hoses down there.
Any further questions? As I, just as a recap, this is one of those areas that was identified as development on partial servicing and as previously approved by the county. Seeing nothing further, Julie.
Be it resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the County of Elgin grants draft plan approval to the draft plan of subdivision proposed by CJDL Engineering Limited, file number 34T-BY 2201, and that staff be directed to provide notice of this decision, subject to the conditions for final approval in accordance with the Planning Act.
Okay, thank you. Mover and seconder, please. Counselor Jones will move. Counselor Hentz will second. All in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Thank you. Moving on with 6.5, General Manager of Engineering, Planning and Enterprise, Deputy CAO, Local Municipality Road Maintenance Agreement, Additional Administrative Fee. Brian, please.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. Through you to council. The county recently received invoices for additional road work that county staff had requested complete in 2022 from the municipality of Central Elgin as an extension of services afforded under the road maintenance agreement. These invoices surprisingly included an additional 25% administration fee above and beyond labor, material, and equipment rates charged for the projects. The County of Elgin has historically relied upon its local municipal partners to undertake required maintenance work on county roads that fall outside of the RMA. The current RMA is premised on a cost recovery model, which permits LMPs to seek reimbursement of actual administration fees. And as noted in the report, Central Elgin is imposing additional fees above and beyond that cost recovery model. The model used by LMP includes recovery of administration fees for additional scopes of work based on current provincial rates. In particular, many municipalities reference Ontario Provincial Standard Specification 127, Schedule of Rental Rates for Construction Equipment, which includes a model and specification reference. The specified rates are representative of the cost of owning and operating a piece of equipment and is made up of both direct and indirect costs such as depreciation, financing, maintenance, insurance, overhead, and profit, as well as others. Should all of Elgin's local municipalities partners impose additional administration fees beyond what is already agreed upon in the current model, project costs for additional services will inevitably increase significantly. And in order to provide services at the lowest cost to one ratepayer, staff will have to carefully reconsider requesting additional road maintenance services from LMPs who charge premiums that compete with the private sector. In order to remain consistent with the practice of other LMPs, staff recommends that County Council request that the municipality of Central Elgin exempt the County of Elgin from any and all additional administration fees above and beyond full cost recovery. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
And thank you for that report, Brian. Does anyone have any questions for staff on this? Or even comment? Councillor Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. Through you to Brian. When we developed the new maintenance agreement, just hasn't been that long, actually. There's a lot of consultation with our LMPs, and I guess was this brought up at that time from Central Elgin that it was a problem?
Through Mr. Warden, municipalities impose new bylaw or change to their fees and charges bylaw was not reported to county staff. And so, as mentioned, sort of came as a shock when we saw the costs. The time period with which county staff could have appealed had already lapsed, just to give you a sense of how long it had already been in place. And coincidentally, the additional scope of services requested by county staff obviously happened at the later period of that lapsing period.
Anything further from council members? Councillor Noble.
Through you, Mr. Warden, how far back does that 25% admin fee charge? And then also what's the rest of the LMPs charging for an administration fee, just to get an idea of what's right?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Warden, to Councillor Noble. Invoices date back to, if memory serves me correctly, I don't have them in front of me, I believe it's March of 2022. All other local municipalities charge actual costs. So administration plus a nominal overhead fee of 5 to 10% range. Central Elgin, as it relates to these invoices, not only charged that, but added an additional 25% right on top.
Supplementary, Councilor Noble?
Through you, Mr. Warden, was there notice given for that 25% charge?
Through you, Mr. Warden, none.
Deputy Warden McPhail.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. You know, the road maintenance agreement, when it was initiated back in 98. Prior to that, we had a county road department. It made a whole lot of sense that the work that was being done in West Elgin or Bayham or any one of our member municipalities, that it be coordinated out of those municipalities, certainly trying to increase the efficiencies that we did the work where we focused on the work where the work was. I think we felt that the lower tier municipalities had a better understanding of their roads, their needs. And certainly there's a difference across the whole county as to what is required. So, you know, it's worked really, really well. I think I look at other jurisdictions that, you know, Chatham-Kent's gone to 1 tier. I think we do a much better job in Elgin County, the way that we have set it up. Maybe it's not perfect, but it was the best that we could get at the time that we had to come up with some kind of rational reason why we were going to make this amalgamation work. So, you know, that being said, when something like this comes along, I have to caution that it's a slippery slope that you're on when that kind of bill that comes in that's kind of outside the norm. Certainly, I think that the proper way to do it would be to have that discussion up front and have that discussion up front in this room and certainly get some input from everybody around the table, not just send the bill to the county and then request payment of it. So we've got a good thing going in Elgin here, and I think that it probably needs some work. It needs some tweaked. It needs updated, maybe some changes. And I think that's much easier to do collectively around the table here. Let's look at it and make sure it's working best for everybody. Thank you, Mr. Ward.
And thank you for those comments. The only additional comment that I would make to it is consistency, consistent treatment across all the LMPs. You know, anomalies just create problems down the road. And I would think that consistent treatment, we either are all in or we're not. And I'll leave it at that. Councillor Jones.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Warden. I'd like to also say it's one taxpayer paying the bill here, and it's just deferring money to somebody else to charge on the tax bill. I guess if there was a problem, staff and I'm not sure if this was council direction when they changed the bylaw to do this or staff's recommendation, but I think there should have been some discussion and at the county level as well.
Thank you for that. Councillor Giguere.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. I was pretty much going to say the same thing, that to me, this is the classic solution that we don't know what the problem that it is solving. So it would have been nice if I'm always interested in looking at the problem first and then explore solutions together. So all we have here is a proposed solution, or not even proposed, but imposed solution. So I would be in favor of, for now, seeking the exemption, but to have more conversation. What is happening that is causing you to request that? And let's talk, as we do in good partnerships.
Thank you for that. Councillor Hens.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Warden. When I talk to staff, they're not happy with the road maintenance agreement. Now, I know there was negotiations that went on. I wasn't any part of that. So it would be easy for me to add 25% of that and make our staff quite happy. But as you mentioned, consistency is important. I think we're all in this together. And if we're not pulling the same way, that's a huge problem. So I think it goes back to the road maintenance agreement. And maybe I've missed the boat for this year, but I think more input is required on that agreement from the local level.
Thank you for that. My understanding is that comments are still being exchanged between staff, and I expect that it will eventually make its way up to the elected side. Deputy Warden McPhail.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Warden. To Brian, do you know, is there a consistent accounting process across all of Elgin County with each lower tier as to Elgin County roads, how it's accounted for and, you know, what? So it's all apples to apples across the whole county, or is it a hodgepodge of everything?
From the perspective of each local municipality?
Is it consistent from municipality to municipality? You've got a kilometer of county roads. You do work on it, you're compensated for what work that you do on it. Is that consistent across the whole county, or does each individual municipality have its own accounting process? Because I know in West Elgin, and talking with my public works superintendent, we have a separate set of books for any work that's done on Elgin County road system. And I know that my treasurer can tell you right to the penny how much has been spent, how much time has been spent, how much machine time has been spent, because it's all tagged when there's work being done on county roads. So we know exactly where we are. And some years we'll have a bit of a surplus depending on the year, depending on the snow. Other years, we take that surplus money, we put that in a pot because we know that next year might not be as good. So from the West Elgin experience, it seems to be working well for us.
Yeah, what I would respond with is the last term of council undertook a service delivery review, and council retained the services of Strategy Corp to assist in the review of the road maintenance agreement. And as part of that, a working group was established comprised of not only county staff representation, but also local staff representation. And the composition included your local road supervisors through to treasurers and even CAOs. So there was a diverse group providing input, and as the warden has noted, negotiations are ongoing. I note all that because as part of that review, Strategy Corp, through a series of individual discussions with each of the local municipalities, noted there wasn't consistency with respect to tracking of financials from each of the local municipalities, whether it was the cost per kilometer, the cost per hour for a specific fleet unit, so on and so forth. So one of the recommendations that they put forth and was endorsed by the last county council was a set of criteria for which all local municipalities are now tracking with respect to unit rates. And at the appropriate time, future discussion with respect to the funding model could be revisited in future.
Anything further? Councilor Whitner.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Ketchiba. I guess at the end of the day, we want to be sure that the work being done is paid for fairly. Is that too loud? I don't think Malahite's had a big problem with the agreement, but if it's not, I don't know how, okay, how does a lower municipality bill their rates out? Did they just, is there something that actually based it on? So what is consistent across the county? Maybe Brian can answer that.
Through you, Mr. Warden, the road maintenance agreement specifies base payment of true administration fees plus, I believe it's 5% markup, as well as the opportunity now for municipalities to apply rates based on the Ontario Provincial Standard Specification 127 that I noted in my presentation. So those rates are would be consistent with what the private industry would charge for additional services requested as part of a municipal project. And again, those rates are elevated or inflated to have regard for depreciation of an asset, storage of an asset, maintenance, overhead, and profit. And so now local municipalities all have the opportunity to apply provincial rates for any additional scope of services that are requested by the county.
Yes, thank you. So there's no reason to charge any additional money. I don't understand where the 25% comes from, but I don't understand how it ever got applied. The council must have known about it. You just can't do that, I wouldn't think, but anyway, let's just work towards a fair payment for municipalities and make it easier for everybody to get their work done.
Thank you for those comments. Is there anything additional? We do have a motion drafted before us. Seeing nothing. Julie, please.
Be it resolved that the report titled Local Municipality Road Maintenance Agreement Additional Administration Fee from the General Manager of Engineering, Planning and Enterprise and Deputy CAO dated February 8, 2023 be received and filed, and that that the County of Elgin formally request an exemption to the Municipality of Central Elgin's rates and fees bylaw number 2656, being a bylaw to establish and require the payment of fees for information, services, activities, and use of municipal property. And that the County of Elgin formally request that additional administrative fees in the amount of 25% of project value applied to additional work activities completed under the road maintenance agreement undertaken in 2022 totaling $13,524.42 be waived.
Mover and seconder, please. Deputy Warden McPhail will move, and I believe Councillor Widner will second. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Which brings us to 6.6, Chief Administrative Officer on HR Policy 8.390, COVID-19 Vaccination Verification Policy Rescindment Recommendation.
Thanks, Mr. Warden. Through you to members of council. Policy 8.390 was developed following 2021 provincial direction that all employers should have a policy related to COVID-19 vaccinations in the workplace. This policy required that non-long-term care home staff submit proof of double vaccination against COVID-19 or proof of medical exemption, or as another alternative, staff were required to submit negative rapid antigen tests 3 times a week. So staff are of the opinion that the current climate of the pandemic outside of our long-term care homes warrants the rescinding of the non-homes COVID-19 vaccination policy. So there's more information included in the report, but I would be pleased to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you for that report. Does anyone have any questions for staff? Seeing none, we'll have the recommendation, please.
Be it resolved that the report titled HR Policy 8.390 COVID-19 Vaccination Verification Policy Rescindment Recommendation dated February 10th, 2023 from the Chief Administrative Officer be received and filed, and that County Council rescind HR Policy 8.390 COVID-19 Vaccination Verification Policy effective immediately.
Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Hens will move. Councillor Noble will second. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. 6.7, Chief Administrative Officer and General Manager of Engineering, Planning, Enterprise, Deputy CAO, 2023 proposed deferrals.
Thank you, Mr. Warden, through to council. So staff have prepared a brief presentation detailing the projects which were deferred and are proposed for deferral as part of the 2023 budget development. Brief table of contents there will provide a bit of backgrounds, impacts with respect to the proposal, considerations to give thought to, how do we get here, the risks associated, and specifically detailing the 2 projects that are being proposed for deferral. So a bit of background, project deferral refers to any projects identified in the county's corporate asset management plan and in the development of the budget, which are proposed for deferral. Careful review of the 10-year capital plan and consideration of which capital projects to undertake in any given year is undertaken on an annual basis by staff. Capital projects are essential to providing vital services to the public and in the case of, as an example, transportation often amount to very large expenditures. So for those that may not be familiar, asset management plan is a requirement of Ontario Regulation 588, for which municipalities are required to develop an asset management plan. The county's asset management plan was endorsed by the last term of council, and total assets valued at that time was 1.38 billion. An asset management plan allows municipalities to make the best possible investments as it relates to the life cycle of its assets. So deferring capital projects and the implications associated with it, various things need to be considered by both council and are certainly given consideration by staff. Number one, is there a legislative requirement associated with the project? What are the service needs? What are the implications on the plan itself, the corporate asset management plan? Deferring a project may have a cascading effect on other supplementary planned supporting projects. Condition assessment needs to be reviewed as it relates to that asset, and obviously cost management, potential for cost escalation, and you know, we've all heard the adage, pay now, pay later. Deferring projects to a later date historically will cost more. So the first project budget was developed by staff level to support the recommendations of the asset management endorsed by County Council. The result of the projected levy as a result was 13.24%. To achieve the preliminary budget increase set by council in 2020, staff subsequently proposed 2 projects to be deferred. Avoiding deferral of projects where possible is certainly something staff always endeavors to do. Deviation from the asset management plan certainly creates infrastructure gaps which need to be reported to the ministry. Deferrals of projects or attention to assets will often increase maintenance costs, and as in the unique structure here at the county, maintenance is undertaken by our local municipal partners, so a deferral of projects will inevitably increase your costs as well. Appropriately scheduled life cycle investment maintains an asset condition, and so deferral of projects for any extended period of time often triggers a greater investment in future. So since 2020, the county's investment in capital infrastructure, just to give some context, over the last 4 years has been a staggering $129 million. It's significant. It was required to address the backlog of infrastructure needs and improve the overall asset condition. Impacts associated with deferral certainly vary depending on the project and its complexity. Average construction unit rates year over year, last year, and we're seeing this year on average is about 7%. Again, deferral of projects to future years will cost more. Oftentimes can create compression issues or have domino effect with respect to future planned projects. And most importantly, does deviate from council's endorsed asset management plan, for which staff have to report back to the ministry on an annual basis. So at its meeting on last month, on the 25th, council awarded a project associated with a Centennial Elm roundabout, which resulted in a savings of $566,000. The question was asked, why such a significant savings? Estimating project costs this past year is anyone's best guess, and in discussion with our consultant, they had utilized 2022 rates and inflated it by 10%, and so the delta, or the difference between what was projected and true costs came in represent that difference. moving forward, construction volatility with respect to pricing, we've witnessed it over the last year, whether it was with respect to the elevator project here at the administration building or others. And then certainly this year's tender pricing was extremely competitive in that much of the private industry with respect to private subdivision development has really dried up. And in my discussion with various contractors in the London area, they're all looking for work. So the first project that was proposed for deferral was Fingal Line reconstruction. So it involves a reconstruction of about 1.3 kilometers of a portion of Fingal Line within the Port Talbot vicinity, complete with curb and gutter, storm sewer replacement, and safety upgrades, guide rails. An example of a project recently completed is actually just around the corner on John Wise Line, whereby for those that have driven or are familiar with it, that would be then the end result once completed. So why was it deferred? It represented a significant project value. Deferring of the project a year or 2 or 3 doesn't, based on its current condition and projected further degradation of its condition, wouldn't represent a change in strategy. Reconstruction is the end or last step within a life cycle, and once completed, resets the life cycle clock, if you will, for an asset. So invariably, the road surface will see more potholes in due time, or depending on how long this project is deferred. I would also note, in terms of where this project, if deferred, would land in future years, that has not been explored or contemplated by staff at this time. Impact of adding the project back into the budget would result in a tax levy increase of about just over 2%. Sorry, 5%, 5.5%. And the average increase to residential property is $34.70 based on a $100,000 assessment. Project number 2 is St. George Street reconstruction, which services the community of Lyndhurst and is a connecting link between Wellington and the city of St. Thomas. So this was a project that is proposed to be undertaken in partnership with the municipality of Central Elgin, and involves a full reconstruction to an urban standard, complete with curbs and gutters, new storm sewer, replacing outdated municipal drainage infrastructure, sidewalks along the balance of this stretch of road. Estimated cost is there before you. Here again, deferral of the project will inevitably result in increased project costs. Existing substandard provisions with respect to drainage exists. Ongoing pavement continued degradation will occur. And we have received many complaints with respect to public safety as it relates to both the non-existence of sidewalk in whole along St. George Street, as well as the portion that's there, seeing as it sits adjacent to the edge of road. Many residents have complained with respect to public safety. So again, why was it deferred? It here again represented a significant project value. Doesn't change the investment strategy if deferred a year or more. If council so chooses to proceed with this project, it would represent an approximate 7.7% tax levy increase, or $49.37 to a residential property per $100,000 assessment. So feedback from the public will be presented to council at its next meeting. Staff will present a set of recommendations based on the public input and council direction, including public input regarding the roundabout savings. So council's direction is ultimately needed with respect to proceed with project deferrals or include one or both projects in the 2023 budget. And then number 3, consideration to additional investment as an option. If the projects are deferred, could be that additional investment into a reserve fund to pay for these deferred projects and the anticipated cost escalation is also an option that council may want to consider. So with that, we're here to answer any questions that council may have.
Thank you for that staff report and presentation. Any questions, any comments, observations? Councillor Noble.
Through you, Mr. Warden, when you say that it'll cost an extra $50 per 100,000 of assessed value, is that just for that municipality that we're doing that work, or is that across Elgin County?
Through you, Mr. Warden, that's all county residents.
Councillor Sloan.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Warden, to Mr. Lima. One of the letters that we have in correspondence has to do with some safety issues. I wondered if there's an opportunity we could touch on those, please. In the sense of, do we have any issues with related to liability? We've had concern from one resident. This is all factored into the decision-making process, I take it.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Warren, to Councillor Sloan. The infrastructure that exists there now is compliant with the applicable standards of the day when they were installed. Certainly, the sidewalk adjacent to the edge of travel vehicular lane is a common occurrence in other municipalities. It's not an expanded sidewalk that exists there now. It's just your standard 1.5 meter wide sidewalk. And so pedestrians do feel a sense of caution when they use that, depending on the speed of travel of vehicles. And there have been repeated calls or complaints associated with speeding vehicles. And this is one location that the OPP spent a lot of time monitoring speeding in this regard. So what's there now is safe. It doesn't present a risk at this point in time to the county, but it doesn't certainly meet the county's ultimate design standards.
Supplementary.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. And on that, when something is deferred, does it defer to 2024?
Through Mr. Warden, that decision hasn't yet been made unless direction is provided by county council.
Thank you.
Deputy Warden McPhail.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. Certainly when it comes to deferral of projects, each and every one of us have projects within our own municipalities. And take away where these projects are located. Because the reality is, if you defer these projects, you back the whole train up. Somewhere down the line, there are other projects that you've got residents saying, we need this fixed, we need this fixed, and you can tell them, like I've told them many times, it's on the list. Well, it's kind of like an airport with the planes all circling around, and if they can't land, they just go around and around and around and don't ever get down on the ground. So I think we have to do one of two things. 2.7% increase when we have 7% inflation. I don't know if that's the number that we should be looking at. If we're not going to move forward with some of these projects, I think at least we need to be putting money away in a reserve fund to make sure that when the time comes around that we do two things. We have an acceptable tax increase, but we're also looking that we don't bunch up the rest of us waiting to get our own projects done because it got jammed up back in 2023.
Thank you. Councillor Cookett.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. Just a comment. It seems we're kind of between a rock and a hard place here. If either we hurt ourselves now or we hurt ourselves in the future. I kind of wish that when we had discussed the budget earlier, that these projects were part of the budget, because now the figure of 2.07 is out there in the public. And if we don't defer these particular projects, we're going to increase the budget by a huge amount. Instead of 2.7, it could be 9 or larger. So I said, yeah, he says, hey, hurt ourselves now or hurt ourselves in the future. Not sure.
And thank you for those comments. Councillor Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. I tend to agree with everybody. This is, it's a very difficult decision. Obviously, it'd be great to go ahead with the projects. One of the things that hasn't been discussed in this, it's one of those hammers that the province holds over us is if we, when staff do report our asset management plan and if the province isn't very happy with us with regards to what we've done, some of the funding that we do receive from the province could be withheld. That's one of their options if they don't like what we're doing. That's been put to me very clearly with our own municipality. You have to be careful because the province does hold a big hammer over top of you with regards to grants, and that's something we have to think about too. That could be a double-edged sword if we do decide to go down the path of both deferrals. I think if we could find a way to do one project would be great. At the very least, item 3, that we put money into reserve. But I think we have to do something here. We just can't keep pushing stuff off.
Thank you for those comments. Councillor Jiguer.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Warden. I'm wondering, Jennifer, if you can put the $34 and the $49 in terms of a tax rate increase. So I know the increase that you've shared is the overall levy increase, but do we know what that number, that percentage tax rate would be? And while you think about that, I guess I would echo, I think it might be prudent to consider at least one project. It sounds like the market may be in our favor. If we have contractors looking for work, we could be pleasantly surprised in one of those project estimates coming lower, like we have been with the roundabout. So I would be in favor of a prudent approach because it looks like at 2.07 right now, seems like we have a little bit of room to tackle at least one project.
Thank you for those comments. Mr. Lima.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. To Councillor Jiguer, the presentation, we did note the impact that it would have on the county levy. So for each of the projects, as an example, project number 1 being the Fingal line, an additional 5.54% tax levy, county levy increase would be required in order to support that project, and subsequently for the second project as well.
Through you, Mr. Warden, to Councillor Jiguer, it is the tax rate increase, that 5.4%, not the levy. So that would be the amount that we would have to increase. So it would be added to the 2.07%. So we'd end up in the 7% range. And then if we were to add the other project, we would need to add the other 7%. So we'd be in a very double-digit number in order to get to be able to fund both of those projects.
Councillor Jiguer.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. So I don't know about others, but I think to Councillor Crookett's comments, because now we're changing the numbers that we shared with the public. And now I'm unclear as to, we have a beautiful graphic out there that is very clear. And now I think we're moving, we're proposing different options for some of those pieces. So I would be in favor of seeing that laid out so that we can compare, apples to apples as to what we put out there to the public and what we're considering today with these projects.
Okay, thank you for those comments. Councillor Whitner.
Yes, thank you. Warden, do we have any money in reserve for these projects? And if not, what would it cost us to put a good chunk away for another year? I kind of agree that we've already kind of put the tax rate out there, and if you start changing it, I'm not sure how it's going to be, but just a question. Thank you.
Yeah. I'm going to take that one on. Currently, we're looking at one of the options of what to do with the unrealized savings. And I'm going to characterize that unrealized savings from the proposed roundabout. There is a growth reserve that is in place. We already tapped some of that last year to underwrite the tax rate. If you wanted to do some kind of a hybrid model to accommodate some of the discussion around the table, consider taking on one of these projects, take those unrealized savings, put them to your growth reserve so that you've got something for next year to come back at and subsidize one of these projects. It's an option. I'm sensing from Councillor Jiguer, you'd like to see a more thorough comparison. And just to be fair, the scenario, the 2.07 was only possible because these two projects were deferred. Yeah. And I think what staff are trying to do is trying to illustrate to you that we can do that. But there is a cost coming from it. Yeah. And I know the desire is always out there to keep your tax rate as low as possible. But if we keep doing that, eventually someone's going to have to pay it. And so rather than a maybe a 7%, we might be looking at a 20% down the road. And this has happened in the recent past. Councillor McFarrell was around. I believe it was a 17%. So keep that in mind. You want to keep things planed out. You don't want these huge spikes.
Yes, Mr. Ward, we had no alternative but a 17% increase for the corporation. I believe at that point in time, there was $26 million budget and total money in reserves for the whole county on a budget of that size was $100,000 for everything. And I mean, it was just not physically sustainable, and we had no choice but to put a 17% increase in place.
Councillor Cookett.
Thank you, Mr. Wooden. To add to Councillor Widner's comments about putting money in reserves and your comment about trying to keep things at an even keel, one of the ways we can approach that is put the roundabout money in reserves totally and perhaps add to reserves by an equal amount to have a larger kind of reserve for looking at these projects down the road rather than taking them all on again next year or the year after that. Let's put some more in reserves.
Thank you for that. Okay, we're at the point now where staff are looking for some direction from us. What would you like to do? We've heard a couple of different options. A hybrid model, suggest take on one, suggest put some reserves away. Do you want to see a scenario further breakdown? We do have a budget meeting coming up, I believe, on the 28th. Councillor Jones.
I think we need, like Councillor Jiguer said, a more comprehensive chart, whatever. But I am leaning toward the hybrid of doing one project and putting money away. I think that's the most responsible.
Okay, thank you for that. Councillor Jiguer.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. So yeah, because it feels like right now, I think there are three options that we've put out there, and this feels like maybe option 4 and 5 and 6, or maybe even 7 if there's a hybrid. So I think that's what we're talking about, is just, a comprehensive document that has all of the options in one place. And, different ways to use the the unrealized savings and so on. So I don't know if Julie has a suggestion on how to word that, but I think that's what I would be looking for. It's in addition to what's already out there.
Councillor Sloan.
Through the warden, I'd also like to understand what our commitments are for 2024. I mean, we've got, capital planning. I asked if it could be deferred. We don't know yet. So I mean, this isn't just a one-off. So I think we've got to take a look at 2024 as well. That's my comment. Thank you.
Through you, Mr. Warden, to Councillor Sloan. That is a great point, and would council like to direct that staff provide an overview of all proposed 2024 and beyond projects, and we take a look at that 10-year capital plan as part of this year's budget deliberations, or leave that task for the budget committee in June?
Okay, Councillor Jiguer, you can have first kick at the can.
I guess it's more of a question because as part of our budget deliberation so far, we did see a 10-year capital plan, which to me would say that these two projects were already deferred. So we already know what that number, I don't have it in front of me, but I think you had incorporated them in other years, like those figures were pushed in all, so they're already there. So we've already seen that, and it seemed, I don't recall any huge jumps or, sort of scary kind of, anyway, what I'm trying to say. But so I feel like we have that information. We just need to relook at it to see how you had managed that in the first scenario we looked at.
I think valid point. I think from an illustrative point of view, you need to, as best as possible, suggest a possible tax rate scenario by deferral of these projects into 2024. But of course, that also depends upon which projects you're going to keep kicking forward. So there are always options.
Through you, Mr. Warden, just to clarify Councillor's comments, if this is being deferred to 2024, that's a different scenario. So I just wanted clarification on that. Thank you.
Yes, Brian.
I can confirm, just going back to Councillor Jiguer's comments, the 10-year capital plan that was presented did not defer these two capital projects to future years. That is still up in the air. So in future implications in what year it's ultimately to be undertaken have not been identified in the capital plan. So any direction today required from council would require staff to put forth a proposal in that regard. The discussion or the focus has only been the 2023 capital plan. We haven't given much thought into future years. So there will be further implication in terms of the 10-year plan that you've seen.
I think you've identified the course going forward, Brian. We need to see what that proposal and implications are for next year for council to make that informed decision. Does that sound acceptable to everyone? Okay. Give Julie a minute here to craft a resolution.
Be it resolved that staff be directed to consider council's feedback and prepare a follow-up report with more information about the 10-year capital plan, along with scenarios, options, and recommendations for council's consideration at its meeting on February 28th, 2023.
Okay, is everyone happy with that? Can we have a mover and seconder? Councillor Cookett will move. Councillor Jones will second. All in favor? That's carried. Which brings us to section 7, council correspondence, 7.1, item for consideration, 7.11, West Elgin letter, request to review parking bylaw.
Up on that, Mr. Warden, thank you. This was a result of West Elgin entering into the field of writing parking violations. been so long since we wrote one, our ticket book was obsolete. And starting to look into it a little bit closer, being that we have county roads and we have our local roads, require two separate bylaws. If you take a look at the bylaw being adopted, was in 2001. I signed that bylaw, so I'll tell you, it's really old. And I think it's probably at the point in time where we do need to have another look at it. And the reason why we sent it here is each municipality can do it on their own, but it's fairly technical and fairly time consuming because you have to put your due diligence to it, and then you have to send it off to the Ministry of the Attorney General for them to give their blessing on it. So the discussion that we had at our municipality was that to benefit all municipalities across the county, and the fact that the bylaw is 22 years old, that it probably would be best to be looked at the upper tier here. And this group here request staff to review the bylaw and come back with some recommendations for this council to deliberate on and approve. They'll be consistent across the county. And I think that that's probably something that the POA would certainly appreciate if there was some consistency. So it's here for your discussion. And again, I would ask that county council consider reviewing the bylaw and bringing it up to 2023 standards.
Thank you, Deputy Warden. Councillor Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. Last night's Southold Council meeting, we supported West Elgin's letter. So we are fully in agreement. I think when you take a look at it, and I guess these things just get pushed off and no one really thinks about it until, oh yeah, it costs more to serve a ticket than it does to the price of getting back. So you're losing money every time you serve a ticket.
Thank you for those comments. I like the proposal from a couple of points of view. Yes, you're suggesting consistency across the entire county, which is a good idea, and the idea of approaching this from a synergistic point of view, so that we're not all doing this on our own, but that it's led perhaps by a central initiative. And that doesn't imply that every municipality is going to buy into it, but still it's worth the review. Any additional questions or comments?
Yes, Mr. Warden, I think that all of us, probably the most pressure on parking is on county roads. Certainly it doesn't take away the lower tiers' ability to make whatever arrangements they wish to on their own roads at their own time and go through the process. But certainly there's an opportunity here, and we just kind of stumbled along it by luck or default or something and all we were trying to do was to deal with overnight parking for winter control. And, you know, we put out warnings and we put warnings and warnings that the guys would be out in the trucks and put warnings out. And finally, we just come to the conclusion that enough warnings, now it's time to start writing paper, because that's where you get the real action.
Any further discussion on this? Seeing none, we have a motion.
Be it resolved that staff be directed to conduct a review of the parking bylaw with its local municipal partners and report back to council at a future meeting.
Mover and seconder, Councillor McPhail. Fail, that is. Councillor Hentz will second. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. 7.2 items for consideration, the consent agenda. You have several pieces of correspondence, including the letter and list of 2022 events from the town crier, the Elgin County Museum exhibit, opening poster, cycling and unspoken history, family day, February 20th, 2023, the Elgin County Library Winter Reading Challenge poster, Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing letter announcing the extended deadline for all implementation stream projects, correspondence from Will Hayho supporting proceeding with the St. George Street reconstruction project, And the resolution from the Township of Malahide supporting Elgin Federation of Agriculture's request for the county to maintain the farm class tax rate of 0.23%. Does anyone have any concerns or questions regarding correspondence? Counselor Sloan.
Through you, Mr. Warden, if I could just understand how, if Elgin County is affected by the municipal modernization program being extended. Thank you.
Thank you for that question. Julie, do you want to answer that one?
Certainly. So through you, Mr. Warden, to Counselor Sloan, we received phase 3 of the Municipal Modernization Fund to support our Human Capital Management Program, the HCM project. And the impact is great for us because it gives us a little bit more time to implement before we have to report on that. So we have had some project delays associated with the HCM project. So this was very welcome news coming from the government.
Okay. Any other questions? Seeing none, we'll have the motion, please.
Be it resolved that correspondence items number 7.2.1 to 7.2.6 be received and filed.
Counselor Woodner will move. Counselor Jones will second. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Which brings us to other business statements, inquiries by members. Counselor Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. I'd like to bring to your attention the promotional card I left at everybody's desk today. American Airlines Flight 1 crashed at Lawrence Station, Oakfield in October 30th of 1941. All 17 passengers and 3 flight crew were killed that day. Pardon me. This was Canada's worst aviation disaster at the time, and the crash contributed significantly to the development of flight data recorders or black boxes that are on all airplanes today. We have a new play to be premiered in Shedden on April 14th and 15th, which will highlight the life stories and that were instantly altered by the crash and the considerable compassion provided by the community. And you're all welcome to attend, please. Tickets are going fast. There's not a lot of tickets left for each of the dates. So.
Thank you for that. Any other statement by members? Deputy Warden McPherson.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Warden. I guess this is just something that's been on my mind for a little while here, and as we have all member municipalities here, is anyone struggling with trying to help or to hire staff, public works staff? I know that we are, and I'm wondering, is there any merit in going to a deputation at the Ontario Good Roads to see if Minister McNaughton is interested in possibly designing up a apprentice program for public works employees that we'd be in a position to maybe hire an individual in our community to work for us, and there would be maybe some assistance from the province, both in funding that individual while they are learning, and possibly set up where there's training courses that they can attend, and at the end of the day, we could have a local employee that's trained and experienced. Because what I'm starting to see is we're needing to go farther and farther afield to get individuals that would wish to work for the municipality, and unfortunately, once they kind of seem to get trained up, they're moved on to somewhere else. So I would rather grow them right at home, and hopefully their families are there, their homes are there, and they'll stay with us hopefully until they retire. So does anybody am I kind of on the right track with this idea, and should I be asking for a deputation with the minister and certainly with county council's concurrence that if I was successful getting a deputation, that the warden also attend representing the municipalities in Elgin County.
Thank you for that, Councillor Jones.
But yeah, I think everybody has the same problem. The biggest problem that we've seen when you're trying to hire somebody is the qualifications that you already need. A driver's license will allow you to drive a tandem axle air brakes and possibly a Class A license in some cases for towing the trailers behind the trucks. So that's the biggest challenge, is finding people with that qualification already. Otherwise, you spend a lot of time and money just getting them the courses to pass that exam.
Okay, council, what do you think? Councilor Widner. Sure that one isn't open.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Warden. I know from Allied's perspective, we've been very fortunate. Every time we've had a job listing, we get 4, 5, and 6, and good employees. They do tend to maybe leave later on because the construction, when they get hot, they'll pay a lot more than we can afford to pay, or think we can afford to pay. So from our perspective, no, we haven't had a problem, but I can see where there's lots are. And maybe because we're more centrally located to a bigger area, we can draw from London or whatever, but we haven't really had a problem as of yet. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Councilor Hens.
We too struggle to hire everything from governance staff, roads employees. We're even having trouble with students right now. So it is a big problem out there. The government recognizes this through their apprentice program, and I don't see why we shouldn't get some of that. It is a good job. It's a career, as I see it. Our employees are well paid. The benefits are good. For some young person, I think it would be, especially in their own backyard, an excellent career. So a little boost or help, I think, would go a long ways.
Okay, thank you for that. Any additional comments? Julie.
If I may, through you, Mr. Warden, to members of council. So the delegation deadline for good roads is March 17th. And with council's consent, I recommend staff bring forward a report that details other options for delegations as well. So council can consider what, if any delegations you'd like to consider with respect to all issues facing the county at this time, including the one raised by Deputy Warden McPhail.
Well, thank you for that, Julie. Actually, I was on my mind to suggest the same thing, that there may be other issues as well, and perhaps that should be brought forward in a report. Thank you. Would that satisfy?
Oh, I think so. I know.
Yep.
Have an email from my road superintendent saying exactly that, March 17th, and certainly I know that we'll be discussing that issue with him. I think that at the end of the day, we probably will be asking for a delegation, but certainly the offer is open to the warden to attend on behalf of the county. And I know that my clerk is told me yesterday that she is going to give Minister McNaughton a head up that we are coming.
Thank you for that. Okay, any other statements? The only thing I can offer, and I don't know if Mayor Cookett can add anything to this or not, but apparently you're going to be celebrating 150 years of rail service in Elmer on the 21st of February, whether you knew this was coming or not. Apparently, Mr. Harding has organized to have a pump cart down there somewhere around Elgin Feeds going up and down the track somewhere between 1 and 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I understand the town crier will be attending, so you might hear about it. Okay. Which brings us then to closed meeting items, and we will now be going into in camera. Julie?
Be it resolved that we do now proceed into closed meeting session in accordance with the Municipal Act to discuss the following matters under Municipal Act Section 239-2. In camera item number 9.1, contract negotiations, and that's 239-2K. In camera item 9.2, IT services, contract negotiations, and that's 239-2K. In camera item number 9.3, a litigation matter, which is a verbal update, and that's 239-2E. In camera item 9.4, property matter, and that is 239 to F, H, and K.
Mover and seconder, please. Counselor Jones and Counselor Jiguer will second. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Okay, welcome back. Motion to rise and report.
Be it resolved that we do now rise and report.
Mover and seconder, please. Counselor Jones, Counselor Sloan will second. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. In camera item number 1.
Be it resolved that the report from the Chief Administrative Officer be received.
I got proceed as directed.
It's incorrect.
Okay, thank you. Mover and seconder, please. Counselor Hentz will move. Counselor Noble will second. All in favor? It's carried. In camera item number 2.
Be it resolved that the Chief Administrative Officer proceed as directed.
Mover and seconder, please. Counselor Jiguer, Counselor Sloan will second. All in favor? That's carried. In camera item number 3.
Be it resolved that the Director of Legal Services proceed as directed.
Mover and seconder, please. Counselor Jones, Counselor Noble will second. All in favor? That is carried. And in camera item number 4.
Be it resolved that the warden and staff proceed as directed with respect to the land assembly project.
Okay, recorded vote has been requested. But we need a mover and seconder first. Counselor Sloan will move. Counselor Noble will second. Please call the question.
Could I have the motion reread, please?
Be it resolved that the warden and staff proceed as directed with respect to the land assembly project.
Yes.
Deputy Warden McPhail.
No.
Counselor Hentz.
Yes.
Counselor Jones.
Yes.
Counselor Sloan.
Yes.
Counselor Noble.
Yes.
Counselor Cookit.
Yes.
Counselor Jiguer.
Yes.
Counselor Widner.
No.
And Mr. Warden.
Yes.
7-2, the motion is carried.
Thank you. Section 11, motion to adopt recommendations from the Committee of the Whole.
Be it resolved that we do now adopt recommendations of the Committee of the Whole.
Mover and seconder, please. Counselor Jones and Counselor Cookit will second. All in favor? That's carried. Consideration of the bylaws, bylaw number 23071, non-union economic adjustment.
Be it a first, second, and third read of bylaw 23-07 being a bylaw to establish remuneration rates for employees covered by the job evaluation scale.
Mover and seconder, please. Counselor Jiguer, Counselor Hentz will second. All in favor? That's carried. The confirming bylaw.
Be it a first, second, and third read of bylaw 23-08 being a bylaw to confirm proceedings of the Municipal Council of the Corporation of the County of Elgin at the February 14th, 2023 meeting.
Mover and seconder, please. Counselor Noble and Deputy Mayor McPhail, Deputy Warden McPhail. I don't have problems with that, you know that. All in favor? Carried. And the adjournment bylaw or motion.
Be it resolved that we do now adjourn at 1:30 p.m. to meet again on February 28th, 2023 at 9:00 a.m.
Okay, I see it was moved by Counselor Jones and seconded by Counselor Widner. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you all. Thank you very much for joining us and Happy Valentine's Day.